Jigawa State in the northwest Nigeria is established to be one of the poorest states in this country, but not anymore. Now, Governor Umar Namadi, since assumption of office, has promised to transform Jigawa into a mega city, providing all sorts of developments. Welcome. My name is Sumaya Abubakar. In this edition of Jigawa in Focus, we went to Dutse, the state's capital, meeting with people that matters, telling us the major developments and achievements of Governor Namadi's administration since inception. Education is the key driver of the socio-economic development of any nation. Now, we are going to start with education sector, especially the basic education, to see what has been achieved so far. A lot of things have happened in Jigawa State within the last 7 to 8 months in the education sector. We visited the State's Commissioner of Education, and this is what he had to say.
The ministry is virtually new, though not new in the sense that it has never been in existence because way back in 2003, during the leadership of former Governor Ibrahim Samutaraki, we had similar arrangements where we had the Ministry for Higher Education, Science and Secondary Schools Management Board, and the Ministry of Basic Education. And coincidentally, even that time, I was the commissioner in charge of basic education. So it was the time when we established the State Universal Basic Education Board after the demolition of the National Commission for Primary Education. When the EDI was approved by the National Assembly at that time, and the Basic Education Unit was put under the Universal Basic Education Commission. So this last year in July, or in January, in June to be precise, the President Governor subdivided this Ministry of Education, Science and Technology into two. We have the Ministry for Higher and Secondary Education, and then we have the Ministry for Basic Education. And I'm now in charge of the basic education sector. We have agencies under the ministry, about 4 of them: the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, the State Agency for Mass Education, the State Agency for Nomadic Education, and the State Library Board. These are the agencies under the ministry, the purview of the ministry. Well, the greatest success is the division, which was brought about for the ministries, which now gives us ample opportunity and direct insight into the aspect of education at the 2 levels. So we now have more concentration on understanding what is going on in the basic education sector, which has to do with primary and junior secondary schools. And by this means, it means that we can now fully understand what is happening in the system and try to address them squarely, while the purview of the higher education is the higher education institutions and senior secondary schools, which also gives them ample opportunity to understand what's going on within that system and to make sure that they attend to those issues and bring the necessary changes and reforms that are needed. So that's the first thing. And secondly, after the separation, I was the only person posted in the ministry, only my driver and the messenger. But then to date, we're able to get offices, we're able also to deploy staff, including the permanent secretary, and we're able to get directors up to about close to 9-10 departments. We have the Department of Administration and Finance, the Department of School Services, Department of Special Duties, Department of Recruitment and Training, Department of ICT, Department of Quality Assurance, Department of Planning, Research and Statistics, and we also have the Department of Private Schools, and I think we have the Department of Basic Science Education. So we have the departments, and already we have secured people at the appropriate grade level and then place them in various places, from directorship, deputy director, assistant director, up to other supporting staff. Well, this principally is one we have done to make sure that the ministry take off successfully, and then work will start in earnest. The reason why we don't have a lot of things to say is last year, we hadn't had much budget for the ministry because we are very much attached to the former Ministry of Education. So whatever I do comes from there. But then there was a time when the government did what is called supplementary budget, and we were able to get some provision, even though we couldn't utilize the provision because of time constraint. Because at that time we don't even have departments, we don't have directors, we don't have virtually anybody. So we didn't do anything until early this year. when the new budget of 2024 was submitted to the State House of Assembly. It was passed into law and signed by the governor, I think about 3 weeks back, almost 3 weeks back. So the budget has been signed into law, and we have a lot of activities provided in the budget. And we have been asked to come up with a work plan, that means procurement plan, of how we are going to carry out our activities. Normally, we do these plans based on quarterly arrangement. We take the first quarter from January to the end of March, and then April to the end of June, and July to the end of September, and then October to the end of December. And we prioritize our projects and programs. Virtually what the ministry will concentrate on is making sure that we have enough provisions to make access to children to go into schools in whichever community and wherever they are. And then to make sure that we have enough teachers, qualified teachers for that matter, in our schools. And then to make sure also we have enough and sufficient teaching materials procured and provided in all our schools. And then to make sure that these schools also have been accompanied with the necessary requirements to make teaching and learning conducive in those schools, like water, like toilet facilities, like furniture in the classrooms, other working materials, security, and conducive environment. Yeah. So we make sure in our budget we have made all the necessary provisions to see that these things are being provided and make sure that they are being procured. And so when we finish our work plan now, based on the quality arrangement, then we'll now start making submissions to the governor based on the activities we have planned to do, to see that we get the support, the approvals, and the financial backing to carry out this mandate. So this is exactly what we are. So, but within all this thing, we're able to come up with a plan and a strategy on how to get some teachers on board. We had the program of the Teach, and we started how we can move some of them into the position of permanent and pensionable, and then to replace them again. And we'll also identify some degree graduates who are working in SUBEB, about 1,973. We wanted to remove them from there to the Ministry for Higher Education, and then take some JHBPS to make them permanent and pensionable in the sector, and then to get another new ones to replace them. At least by the time this exercise is completed, the state would have engaged about 8,000 to 9,000 teachers in our schools. The exercise is ongoing. There is a committee set up by the State Council, Executive Council, which is working on that, and very soon when they finish, I think the program will take off fully, and it will be completed and completed as implemented.
Since my inauguration in May 2023, we have also been able to recruit about 4,662 number of personnel into the state civil service as permanent and pensionable staff, which included the conversion of 3,000 JTeach personnel and 1,200 teachers for senior secondary and mega schools, 62 non-teaching staff in the senior secondary school. We have concluded arrangement for the replacement of the 3,000 JTeach personnel that were converted into permanent and pensionable appointment. And additional 1,000 graduates for our senior secondary schools. Already this has impacted on our pupils teacher ratio at both basic and post-basic levels.
But then at the same time also we have a program which we call BESDA. We're able to get some funding. BESDA is closing, but we have leftover funding, which is a road given to the state about 2.8 billion, I think in August, September last year. So the governor is intending to see how we can establish 3 models and girls' schools. BESDA is primarily meant to remove children out of school children from the street back to school, especially girls and almajiris. And the program has been on for about 5 years, but it has been closed now. But then the balances of funds that's supposed to be given to state has been given to us. And we have a plan to see that these Nga model schools take off successfully. The governor asked me to go to Gombe. I went there, I saw what the Gombe has done because they initiated the program. And they have similar Nga schools. We saw the model, we saw the activities taking place there. We saw how things have been done. And therefore, we want to replicate the same arrangement. We are going to construct 3 Sangha model schools in the state, and I think approval has already been given for the commencement of the project, and each of the sites is going to cost the government about 350 million naira times 3. Virtually talking about 1 billion and 50 million naira. So we have already gotten approval for the tender process to commence the construction of that work. Once the tender process is completed, approval is taken, request for approval will be taken to the council for approval, and once it's approved, the contractors will now be mobilized to site to start work. That's one thing. When that thing is completed, we intend to see how we can remove almajiris out of the city, about 12,000. Each school will host like between 2,500 to 3,000 or up to 4,000 if they are available in each of the schools, so that they will no longer be allowed to be roaming around on the streets together with their own malam. The school is an all-encompassing. It has classrooms, it has hostel facilities, kitchen facilities, laundry facilities, a mosque, and a house constructed for the malam and some other malams who are going to be assisting him, also including their own families. Government is going to pay for all this, and land is going to be acquired across where the site has been selected to make sure that we have sufficient land to take all the necessary structure that is needed in that place. Even though the government may not be apt in seeing that it's feeding them always, but a token of food items is being provided to the almajiris to cook in the school at their own time, after reading the Holy Quran early in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening time. And government will continue to supplement that to make sure that, yes, at least these children are not allowed to go back onto the street. Through that, we will definitely be able to reduce quite a number of our children who are out of school, back into school. Apart from this, we were also able to access the 2023 UBEC-SUBEB federal grant. The state was given an allocation of about 1.39 billion naira, and the same amount is going to also be provided by the state government. This is coming from UBEC, and then the state is going to provide the same thing just for the first, second, third, and fourth quarter. So when we put all this together, it will go to about 2.8 billion naira. And that money has been successfully accessed. The state government has paid its own counterpart funding of 1,395 million, and UBEC has also disbursed and released the same amount from the federal accounts in UBEC into the state universal education account. So we have that money at hand, and already work plan has been completed. It has been vetted by due process, and we have submitted to the governor for his approval to commence that exercise. That money is going to be expended on construction of new classroom blocks in primary schools where there are congestion, to reduce congestion, to renovation of schools that have been dilapidated, either by rainstorm or whatever, and then 3, provision of furniture into those schools also. And there is also the EECD, which is for the early child care education development. They're also going to provide with some classrooms, with furniture, and with other working materials. And then also there is also the procurement of textbooks that's supposed to be used for our junior and primary and ECD classes destroyed or damaged by rainstorm. Yeah. And that exercise gave us a cost of about 1.5 billion needed to complete the renovation of those schools. So this is going to be carried out within state capital project, not from UBEC intervention funds. So we have submitted that to due process. They have done the vetting. They return back everything to us. So we have taken the first phase, and we have submitted a request to the government for award of contract to renovate these primary and junior secondary schools, costing about 900 million naira. That has also been submitted, and I think very soon the tender process will commence. And once it's completed, we'll submit to due process for an objection, and then it will be taken back to the Executive Council for approval, and then it will be awarded. So we have all these preparations have been completed. What we are only waiting now, we have to go through the due process procedures, which means advertising in national dailies for about 6 weeks, then opening the bid. After the bid opening, then there will be what is called the technical assessment. After the technical assessment, then it will be sent back to due process for no objection after scrutiny of all the documents. And then once no objection is obtained, we'll do a memo to the Executive Council for approval. Once it's approved, then the project will now be rolling on ground. So this we have all done this, and very soon they will all start. And we also have some packets of projects which we did at the Agency for Nomadic Education and then the Agency for Mass Education, including admission into new classes for the normal children, identifying localities or communities where they don't have schools, and they're in the plan that we're going to provide them with new schools, building of new classrooms in those schools, and also introducing the issue of ICT in our schools, especially at the basic level. We're going to introduce ICT into our schools by procuring computers and equipping some of the schools to become what they call e-learning centers. So our children can start to become more and more confident with the operations and modalities of using the computers and how they're going to go into probably accessing internet, sourcing for information, going through e-library, understanding digitization, and so on and so forth. I think we are also going to that, and procurement is going to be made for the supply of materials and gadgets of ICT, which will be to some selected schools so that that program can start. We have also initiated the introduction of entrepreneurship in our schools. We want to emphasize how people can now learn skills, so that after finishing schools, they can rely on themselves to start doing some trade, whatever kind of, either it is tailoring, bricklaying, mechanical aspect, electrical aspect, and so on and so forth. So many kinds of trades that children can easily engage in, because the emphasizing of paper certificates now in the role, and therefore we also want to key into that program to make sure we don't only rely on getting ourselves just into school, remain in classrooms, write examination, get certificates, and go out without anything to do. But we want to show how certain percentage of their time will be now committed into teaching them entrepreneurial skills in our schools. So these are some of the major things we have so far done within the last 5-6 months. And luckily for us, since now we have a full year budget, I think more of these achievements will definitely come on board as soon as we started implementing the work plan we have so far developed.
Included under both capital receipt and capital expenditure are contra-entry items for new projects to be funded from external development grant, including World Bank supported Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment Program, European Union UNICEF supported Basic Education Program, and the World Bank assisted Appeals Project. It also included expected drawdowns from ongoing grant-funded projects such as JKS and agro-climatic resilience in semi-arid zone landscape, ACRESAL. That with respect to the two critical human development sectors, health and education, the proposed allocation to the two sectors is about 131.8 billion, which is more than 2/5 of the total budget, underscoring the priority we attach to human capital development. The combined recurrent and capital allocation to the education sector is over 95.5 billion, equivalent to about 32% of the total proposed budget. This has by far surpassed the upper limit of the 15 to 20% benchmark being promoted by UNESCO Education for All initiatives.
The essence that since communities, open communities, are now becoming more and more aware of the importance of education. So almost every other day people are coming requesting for government to either go and establish a school for them in their communities, or to provide additional classrooms blocks in their communities, while they have classes but they are not sufficient to accommodate the peoples there. So because of the large number of enrollment, that's why government has to go into building new classes. So I believe that with time, the enrollment figure will definitely increase, and that will also help us to reduce children who are out of school back into the formal school system. And also remember, our demography is continuously increasing, almost by the day, because every year the increase is about 20-25% on the population. So if Jigawa has a population about 7.3 million naira now, maybe by the end of December this year, the population will go to about 7.5 million. So you see, I've got an increase of about 250,000 more people into the society. And the more they are increasing, the more demand on government for schools, for education, and for other social services that are supposed to be provided, because the demand is growing. So that's why also government has to be proactive to have concrete and concrete plan on ground on how to make sure these things are accommodated, and we don't allow our people to be going about haywire without knowing exactly where they were supposed to go. So this is the position in terms of the enrollment. Education in Jigawa is free and compulsory. Okay. especially for girl child. Every girl child, from day one, she's being admitted into primary school up to the time when she will finish her university. She was not going to spend a kobo. And so even uniform is being provided to them free, apart from even taking care of all payments that are supposed to be made in schools. One, you see, in the primary schools, in the junior secondary schools, in the senior secondary schools, they don't pay anything. They don't even pay any money because the government is doing everything for them, including exercise books, including textbooks, including uniform, and including hostel facilities where they have hostel facilities. So those who are in day facilities, they go to school and then go back home. So in the university level, there are some token amounts more good the girls have to pay, but once they paid, in terms of maybe because of time constraint, then the schools will now make submission to the government that yes, you have so number of female students admitted at school. This is what they're supposed to pay for the registration or hostel accommodation or this and this. This is what they have so far paid. So we apply for the refund of that money to the parents, and that has always been the practice. So they are not allowed to pay anything on their own, even where they make payments because of expenses of time. Then the government will not refund them in order to allow them to continue with their studies. And for the boys, even in the university, government subsidize all fees that they are supposed to pay in terms of accommodation, in terms of tuition fee, in terms of other registrations they do in the departments, in other faculties, in other areas. All whatever they pay, government will pay them 50% of that money down. So even that one, that's what. But even in the primary, junior, or senior secondary, government don't pay them anything. Only that the parents normally have to give them uniform and maybe some other needs that for them to go to school. But the government provide the education free. They don't pay any fees. They are giving textbooks and exercises for free. And those in hostel facilities, they have hostels where they sleep. So, but only the parents will do uniform for them, buy some shoes for them, buy some other personal belongings what they are going to use while in school. But virtually, the government is spending almost 75 to 80% of the cost of the education also of the male, apart from 100% of that of the female. This is the position in terms of the state of education in Jigawa State. Well, luckily for us, Jigawa nomads are not the ones that normally move too much from one place to another.
Yes.
Most of them are domesticated in their communities where they are. So virtually, we have a good number of the schools are all consistent with the operations of the schooling system. That means they don't move from one place to another. But there are scores of few who are moving from one place looking for posture. But that one we established what is called mobile learning centers. Right now we have about 5 mobile learning centers in the state, where we have teachers who are dedicated to those schools, and they move along with the Fulani mobiles from one place to another. Okay. But we hope also in the current situation, maybe before the end of the year, more of these mobile schools be established to enable those who are not willing to stay in one place and they don't have posture for their animals. They want to move to, say, riverine areas where they have posture, then they go along with their school. By civil, I mean they go along with the teacher, they go along with the teaching materials, some installation materials, and the pupils. So wherever they go, they will establish a learning center. Wherever they live and they go to they will still establish a learning center. That we call them mobile schools. So we have 5 of them right now at Jigawa State, and I hope by the time the budget to come into full force, more of these centers will be established. So we don't have much challenges as far as the Fulani education is concerned, because our state is very peaceful. We don't have any problem with insurgency. We don't have any problem of banditry. We don't have any much problems of kidnapping. We don't have much problems of insecurity, which will now necessitate that we have to be constrained, or it will constrain our efforts towards providing basically the necessary education that is needed. So this, alhamdulillah, we don't have much that problem. So virtually we don't have much challenge. Even where we have some challenges is in terms of the teachers, because most of the teachers who are in those nomadic schools are not nomads people. So there is this issue of language barrier. But we are now trying to see how we can get more and more of the Fulani guys who have been in school, either secondary school or NC or diploma, will be engaged to continue to teach their own siblings. Through that, then the teacher and learner will become more and more effective, because they will still use their own vernacular to teach them better than those who from the Hausa community will go and teach them. So even if there is a challenge, this is the challenge we are facing, but they go to school obviously as and when due. Even if there are some absenteeism, it's very minimal, and I think it's being controlled, and that's just natural, because sometimes you cannot do. Some parents have to allow the girls or the boys to go to rearing before they go to school. Sometimes immediately after school, they will now go and get their animals into the bush to continue to do their grazing. So this, even if there are challenges, these are the challenges. We don't have problem also in terms of the parents' cooperation and allowing the children to come to school. In short, in most cases, the parents who normally come and even request government to go and establish school for them. So we don't have that problem also of the challenge of the communities where the communities are not participating in the education of their children. They are actively involved and they give the necessary cooperation they needed to make sure that their children are also given the education they require. This is exactly the position. Well, alhamdulillah, this issue is an aspiration. It's our hope that we'll all put hands together with the communities, together with the parents, leaders, even the students, the people in the school, the teachers, and education administrators at all levels, to make sure that we do partake in the necessary that is supposed to have been done, doing the needful at the right time in the right place. So by the time we all do this, definitely we will expect a lot of progress, and it will come shine on us and on our system. So ours is just to continue to put in the best we can, to look at our budget, to look at the requirements and the needs of our schools and our peoples, our teachers, and then to see how we can apportion these resources into make sure that at least each and everybody gets what is due to him to continue to pursue his education. So this is exactly the position. And therefore, we hope that by the time we go forward in the next 6 months, or actually at the end of the first year of this administration, we'll now try to assess and see what progress has so far been made or has so far been achieved. And that will now help us to plan ahead to make sure that more and more things are being initiated and then put in place for the progress of the education of the children of Jigawa State.
Well, you heard it from Jigawa State Ministry for Basic Education. Now, these are the major achievements under Governor Umar Namadi on Jigawa education sector. It is still ongoing. More schools are being built, and interventions in terms of promoting education sector is currently going on in Jigawa State. And with that, we have come to the end of this episode of Jigawa in Focus. Do join us next week for a fresh episode. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thanks for watching.
abinci zai wadata a koyaushe.